Hi everybody, this is Tom from Rocket Restorations, and today we are at AMS Obsolete in Fairmount, Georgia, and we got a really cool one for you today. So this one is a factory pilot car. This is a hand-built car from 1970, and there's a lot of really unique stuff on this that we'll go over here in a minute. But this was a super early VIN, early production car. Really neat car here. We're going to go over this thing in detail. Just keep in mind, I apologize. I recorded sound for this, but unfortunately my mic died. So we're having to do a voiceover on this one. So if the sound isn't quite up to my standards, that is why. This is a 1970 Chrysler 300 convertible, and with a really early VIN on it. Obviously, this thing is in a, it's seen better days. It's been sitting outside for a long time, but what a cool car. This would be a fun one to do, and it is absolutely for sale. Contact AMS for a price. They will absolutely sell this to you if you're looking for a really cool 70 Chrysler 300 convertible. Love the hideaway headlights on these. You know, obviously the same grille as the 1973 in a Hearst special. They just had gold in there, but super cool. We're in their wrecking yard section of the yard. They've got so much cool stuff out here. Please watch our other video. We're going to have a companion video to this where we walk the entire yard and show all the NOS parts they have. I believe AMS Obsolete has the biggest NOS parts inventory in the nation. So stay tuned. Please watch that other video for a full tour of their place. This thing is, you know, there's a lot of really unique stuff on this. Unfortunately, the car is pretty rough. I wish I could have gone a little bit more in depth, but let me show you the fender tag here because there's definitely some really unique stuff on this car. So a lot of unique stuff on this fender tag. So first and foremost, there's hardly any information on it. There's really no codes on the top, and that's really typical on these prototype fender tags to see that. Also, when I was first looking at this, I kind of had to do a double take because the engine code in the VIN is a K. Well, K in 69 was the LoPo 440. In 70, that would be a T. So you can tell this car was built super early because it has the 69 fender tag code on it, basically, which is K. Also, the paint code is L1 on this. Normally that would be BL1, that's beige. That would be BL1 in 70. In 69, it was 2 digits. I don't know why. And the first letter of that color code means the first year it was introduced, basically. And it's L1 on this one. Have my trim selector book right here, Chrysler color and trim selector. You can see right here, the color code is BL1. They called it Sandlewood, so not beige. They called it Sandlewood. I think the Plymouth color was beige, I believe. But yeah, real paint sample from a part from the data book. That's one that you can use for an example to try to match paint to a car. And so quick fender tag decode, bottom left is E85, that's LoPo 440, D32 is 727 automatic. Then the CM27, that's the VIN, Chrysler is first C, M is medium 300, 27 is convertible top. You have the K code VIN, which is again is a 69 code for the LoPo 440. 0 is the year, 1970. C is the plant, Jefferson plant, and then the sequence number is 100020. Again, that really low number. And then again, as we talked about earlier, on the left is L1 for the paint code. M6T5 is the interior code. Bucket seats, tan leather bucket seats. My bad, it's vinyl, not leather. Vinyl. 801 is the scheduled production date, which is August 1st, and that's just basically a placeholder. Obviously this thing was built way before then. That was just a placeholder for this. They would just, that was this first scheduled day of production, so that's what they put on there. And then the vehicle order number is M08119, which M means that's a special code. All the most of the sales bank cars built for Chrysler was M. And you can see that this was built as a promotional car or like a show car or something like that with the M Vaughn on it. It does have the wrong screws on it. I think somebody probably replaced those at some point. I'm not quite sure why. I don't know why they would do that, but those are not the correct fender tag screws on there. But if this was a regular production code fender tag, it would have a bunch more options on the top there. So, and of course it doesn't because this is a pre-production car. Also, another thing that's interesting on these is generally the early cars were built in a very light color, either white or beige or something like that. This is a good example of that. And a lot of times, these were the cars in the parts book. Like, when you see the parts book, those are pictures of actual cars that you see in the parts book. And I have a feeling that this is the car in the parts book. So let's look. Let's see if we can look at it. I'm going to go dig out a parts book right here. I'm going to see if I can show you a picture of a 69 Chrysler 300, or sorry, 70 Chrysler 300 convertible. I'm getting a little confused by the engine bin there looking at it. And I'll show you to see if it is in the parts book or not. So here's the 7071 parts book, and was really hoping our car would be in here. So here's so they have a picture of every trim, make, model they made for 1970 and 1971. This is 1970 Chrysler 300 CM convertible coupe. I don't know why they say coupe. I guess that's all two doors. But that does look like it might be BL1 or white, but unfortunately it's not our car because it doesn't have rear bumper guards. So again, that is a picture of an actual car, but it's kind of cool right here. So there's the two-door hardtop, and then they actually have the 300 Hurst in here too. That's neat. See special stripes, special hood, 300 Hurst. I was kind of hoping our car would be the one in the parts book, but looks like it's not with those rear bumper guards. So yes, obviously very unique fender tag on this. Lots of really cool information that shows you it was a pilot pre-production car. A lot of unique parts on these things. We're going to go over and see what else we can find. This was obviously an AC car, has the compressor, has that on it. I really was hoping to be able to see the engine number. I was really curious what the assembly date would have been on that. But unfortunately with the AC compressor on there, that's pretty much impossible to see. A lot of pine needles sitting on this over the years, just from sitting under the trees. You know, the 69 to 70 model year change wasn't a huge change on these cars. They were very, very similar, actually. The biggest differences on these were I mean, they did change the grille a little bit, did change the taillights a little bit, and the side markers changed too. But, you know, when the pre-production cars and the major model changes, like 68 to 69, when they went from the slab sides to the fuselage cars, that was a huge change. And they probably would have built a few more prototypes to get the factory ready to do that. On this car, there probably wouldn't have been so much. That's the wiper motor there. I'm really trying to see the day code, and unfortunately, it's so rusty I can't see it. Same thing with the voltage regulator right there. They're just so rusty you can't see the date codes. I'd really like to see what some of the production codes on this, just to see, you know, how early this car was built. Obviously the buckets are gone, still has the buddy seat in there. Looks like a pretty well optioned car, has the search tune radio, rim blow wheel, doesn't have the tilt wheel, but you know, it's got a few options on it, which is nice. Rear convertible trim wells there. You can see some rust around there. You can see some of the firewall too when we were looking in the engine bay there. It is really common on these early cars to see a lot of 69 parts on them. It's interesting there, I see a headrest there. I believe that's a 69 headrest. Could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that looks like a 69 headrest to me. I would kind of wonder if this thing had 69 buckets in it. That would be an interesting option if it had that. Has the driver's side remote mirror right there. And again, they would put we had power windows too. This thing was loaded from the factory. They would put a lot of options on these cars because they wanted to make sure all that stuff worked. You know, with the different options and everything, they, you know, wanted to make sure. And then, you know, these were also like used a lot for the dealer reveals. So they would, these cars would travel around the country and go to different places to be the dealer reveal cars so they could see the new models. Showing the rim blow horn right there. If it had tilt, it would be more like a kind of a Delta. It's kind of straight across on this one, the non-tilt wheel. On the tilt wheel, it would have kind of a bump on top for that. So it's pretty easy to tell them apart just by looking at them. Still has a convertible top trim there. Looks like the top's a little rusty, but it definitely has a clock, AC. Again, lots of options on this one. Really, really well optioned car. Going back to the exterior of the car here, you can kind of see what kind of condition it's in. It looks like it had maybe a vinyl side molding at some point. You can kind of see the I don't know if it's original paint, but the beige paint underneath where that might have been right there. You know, it's kind of interesting too. A lot of these had the metal parts would have die lots stamped into them, and often on these prototype cars it would be stamped just 000. On the production cars it would actually have a stamping on there from the vendors who are stamping out the panels for them. You can see, you know, pretty good rust on the Dutchman panel there. I mean, this thing's definitely a big project. Looking at the side markers here, I was hoping to see if I could see any difference with those between production and the ones that are on this car. They look the same as regular ones there. I do not see a date code on there anywhere, or it just has the regular part number on there. The trunk lid looks like production there. That's the taillights. Again, I was hoping to see if maybe there was like a 000 on the taillights, but that looks the same as a production there. Bumper guards too. That's another good option this thing had. And then they had the filler was behind the license plate on this thing. Actually still has the Georgia plate on it, it looks like. Had a 300 emblem on the bottom right of the deck lid panel there. So on a 69, it would have a Chrysler on the right side, and on the 70, they wrote out 300 in a big script. Wow, this actually has the original keys in it, which is really nice on a 70 because you can't put it out of gear or steer it without keys because it's got a locking steering column and doesn't allow you to do it. Let's open the trunk and see what's inside the trunk in here. It doesn't look like it wants to open. Not surprising. Everything's frozen on this thing. But yeah, so it's nice to have because it's, you know, the locking column, you can't really steer anything here. It's really tough. Again, I'm trying to read the SAE number on there, but the side marker is kind of so baked right there. It's been sitting in the Georgia sun for a very, very long time, and it's kind of hard to make anything out on that. The part number's kind of there, I guess. Yeah, it's got the part number there. It's just really, really hard to read. Some damage on that quarter panel there. Doors kind of hanging open. Let's see if we can maybe see date code on the windows. Again, I'd like to know what a production, you know, some sort of date code on this car is, because these things were generally built several months early. It'd be kind of nice to know how early this thing was built. I don't know. It's just kind of neat to know how soon they were building prototypes before when production started. Looks like it was a hood pad car, probably undercoated as well. It does have front drum brakes, so it's not a just brake car. So it is another kind of big option it's missing right here. Looks like somebody took the radiator out of here at some point. Not surprising. You know, all the brass seems to disappear out of these things. Big 26-inch, you know, AC radiator of a C-body has a lot of brass in it. And more exterior details on this thing. So they kind of have that line in the front, a little bit different from the 69 grille. But I love the hideaways on these. They just look so good. I believe the turn signals in front fender moldings, I believe those are the same 69 to 70. I think those are the same on each car. It's got the belt moldings on here. Remote mirror right there. That lever's still there. Looks like that still works, although it's a little bit rusty. Some more little details on this too. This thing still has its original 8 3/4 in it. And of course these had 11-inch drums on the back. That was standard on any C body. I believe there was 2 different sizes. With the heavy duty, you got a little bigger brakes on the back, but it was standard of 8 3/4, which is really a great axle. I mean, it's really hard to break those. Unless you have some serious power with a 4-speed, it is very difficult to break one of those rear ends. They tend to not like shocks, so if you do clutch drops at 4,000 RPM, it's not really good for them. But it's not really a problem on something like this because you could not get a 4-speed on one of these. So yeah, you can see kind of the top rust right there. That's pretty typical on these headliner bows. You've got cloth covering that from the convertible top, and they would rust out. Looks like it does have the 69, 70 only. Actually, that might be 70 only, actually. Those top latches. I can't remember if it's 69 too, but that's like, they're super, super rare. C-body only, 70, maybe 69. Again, I can't remember, but those are really, really hard to find. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's 69 and 70. If I'm wrong, I'm sure you guys will call me out in the comments. So you can see over here, this is a 67 Sport Fury convertible, Plymouth Fury. And you can see the difference with the latches right here. So these have the, they're actually gone, but they would have a chrome latch on there rather than the black one that kind of levers like that. So just a little bit different. That was 65 to 68 was the same chrome latch, and then it was 69 70 on that one. All right, let's see if we can see the date code on here. I'm really curious what it is on this glass. Okay, it is really, really hard to read the day code. I think it is 10-8, which I believe is October of 1968, which would be really, really weird. That would be from the 69 model year, because of course they started building these in, started building the 70s in August of 69, and then they built the 69s in August of 68. So it's almost a 68 date code glass, which is kind of crazy. That's like ridiculously early. This thing would not have been built in August of 68. So I wonder if they just kind of used a glass that was sitting around. So I was kind of hoping to use that day code to kind of tell when the car was built, but I don't think there's really a way to do that. So, hey, there's an orange Ram Charger. We like Ram Chargers around here. Luckily, it looks like it still has all the trim back there. Those are pop metal pieces on this car. Looks like most of that's there, and that's a piece of the windshield molding back there too. So it's kind of hard to tell underneath all the pine needles back there, but it looks like most of the parts are there for the car, which is really nice. Well, at least they put the car up on blocks. It's really important to keep these cars off the ground, especially in the Georgia clay. If you leave these things on the ground, they're just going to rot out the frame rails and the whole underneath. So doing that is a nice thing they did for this. So hopefully the underneath isn't super rusty on this thing. You know, I kind of forgot to check if there was a door sticker on this thing. Let's see if it's still there. A lot of times that went away when it was painted. Yeah, looks like there's something there, but it's just gone. Would have been kind of nice because on those they put the month it was built too. Would have been kind of nice to know that. It's got the plastic thing too for the convertible only to keep the door from sagging. So that's there. But yeah, it's kind of too bad the door sticker's there, because if it was built like, you know, August 15th, it would say, you know, August of 69 for a 1970 model year with the VIN on it. Would have been nice to have that, but you know, it happens when cars are repainted. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. The 1970 300 convertible pilot car, kind of neat. This one is for sale. It's at AMS Obsolete in Georgia. We have their contact info in the description in the video. So very interesting car. Really like learning more about these. Convertibles were some of the last cars with wing windows on these as well. They got rid of that on the two-door hardtops in 70. 69 still had wing windows, but the 70 they kind of got rid of them. So all right, well, this is Tom from Rocket Restorations. Appreciate everybody for watching. We'll talk to you soon.